Authorities in the Philippines have declared a state of emergency as Typhoon Kalmegi leaves hundreds of people dead or missing.
Pope Leo XIV received Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas at the Apostolic Palace to discuss a solution to the war in Gaza.
A state of emergency has been declared in the Philippines after Typhoon Kalmegi left at least 140 people dead, with fears the death toll may rise in what is the biggest natural disaster to hit the country this year. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said his state of national calamity measure will allow the government to disburse emergency funds faster and prevent food hoarding and overpricing. The typhoon on Wednesday began to blow away from western Palawan province into the South China Sea with sustained winds of up to 130 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 180 kilometers per hour. The Philippines Office of Civil Defense said nearly 2 million people have been impacted by the typhoon's devastation. Local officials said around 127 people were still missing, many of them in the severely affected central province of Cebu, a bustling province that was still recovering from a 6.9 magnitude earthquake that struck in September.
Pope Leo XIV received Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas at the Apostolic Palace on Thursday. The meeting coincided with the 10th anniversary of the global agreement between the Holy See and the State of Palestine. The Pontiff and Abbas shared their concern for the situation in the Gaza Strip, emphasizing the urgent needs to help the civilian population and to work towards a political solution to the conflict. "We must work for peace with a view to a two-state solution," the Vatican statement read. The audience had been planned for weeks. It is the first time Pope Leo XIV met with the Palestinian president since he was elected. Before their meeting in the Vatican, the two had spoken on the phone in July, when the Pope reiterated the key points of any diplomatic dialogue: full respect for international humanitarian law, the protection of civilians and holy sites, and the prohibition of indiscriminate use of force and forced displacement of the population.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas' visit highlights the Vatican's closeness to the Palestinian cause. The meeting with Pope Leo XIV in the Vatican on Thursday focused on these and on efforts to end the war in Gaza and provide humanitarian assistance to civilians. In the next few hours, Abbas will also meet with Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Giorgia Orlandi for Euronews in Rome.
Climate activists have projected messages about climate change onto Rio de Janeiro's iconic buildings as world leaders arrive in Brazil for the UN Climate Summit, COP30. The installations displayed slogans such as "Polluters Pay," "Protect Forests and People," and COP30 Brazil Amazon. In Belém, the venue of the climate conference, activists from several organizations protested, demanding stronger action from politicians to fight climate change. They're accusing lawmakers of empty promises and pledges and are demanding this year's summit be one focused on action and not words. It comes after the UN published concerning figures in a recent report, asserting that current climate targets will not curb global warming and its harmful impacts. For 30 years, world leaders and politicians have gathered at the annual COP summit to come up with initiatives to curb climate change, responsible for many disasters like ice melting, hurricanes, and storms. The Earth's temperature, however, has continued to rise due to excessive pollution, and with it worsening extreme weather conditions.
NATO Chief Mark Rutte has downplayed concerns over the partial withdrawal of US troops from Romania, saying their force in Europe remains, quote, larger than ever. In a visit to Romania on Wednesday, Rutte explained that adjustments to US military are not unusual, and that Washington remains committed to defending the alliance's eastern flank.
Many more US forces on the continent than before 2022, and you have seen the commitment by President Trump and his administration makes very clear at the summit in The Hague of his total commitment to NATO and to our joint endeavors.
The US announced last week that it would withdraw a rotating brigade currently stationed in the country and not replace it, insisting in a statement that it's a positive sign of increased European capability. A NATO exercise this month in Romania and Bulgaria, in which some 5,000 troops will take part, shows that the bloc is capable of immediate, large-scale movements, says Romanian President Nicolae Dan.
Programul Sentinela Estică sau a Estului înseamnă, pe de o parte, mai multe capacități militare, more capabilities, a spus, și pe de altă parte, oameni atunci când este nevoie.
After Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, NATO has bolstered its presence on Europe's eastern flank substantially.
Defense ministers of the Joint Expeditionary Force have met with their Ukrainian counterparts in Norway to launch an enhanced partnership with Ukraine. The partnership with Ukraine is being seen as a milestone for strengthening Euro-Atlantic security in the Nordic-Baltic region.
So this is a powerful signal to Putin and any other would-be aggressors that Jeff is stronger than ever, more united than ever, more innovative than ever, more flexible in our operational responses than ever.
Established in 2014, JEF is a UK-led multinational force made up of 10 European countries. The coalition seeks to learn from Ukraine's battlefield experience. In exchange, JEF countries will deliver training to the Ukrainian armed forces and collaborate on the protection of critical underwater infrastructure, drones and battlefield medicine.
From partners including JEF countries, Ukraine seeks access to European technologies and production capacities on the basis of which we could launch joint manufacturing. This modern weaponry will not only defend Ukraine now, it will guarantee Europe's security for years to come and reliably protect its eastern flank from permanent Russian aggression.
The meeting follows the conclusion last week of Tarasis, the coalition's 2-month-long operation across the Nordic-Baltic region. On the sidelines of the Euronews Enlargement Summit in Brussels, we took the pulse of the audience to get their take on the summit and the context around it. The war in Ukraine gave renewed impetus to the enlargement process, according to this attendee.
We have a threat, as you know, the Russian threat, so we have to unite as fast as we can.
Despite North Macedonia being stuck in the waiting room for 2 decades, enlargement remains a top priority for the EU, according to this North Macedonian attendee.
It takes two to tango, so the most important thing here is that the candidate countries should also do a lot of reforms and homework, but also the European Commission and the EU Council has to deliver.
According to these Ukrainian human rights activists who advocate for the rights of people with disabilities, the enlargement process will act as a catalyst for reform in countries vying for EU membership status.
We see enlargement process as a chance to push Ukrainian government to have real reforms in this sphere. And we expect that European Commission and European Union will support civil society in this process.
On the other hand, this lawyer believes the enlargement process should not be sped up at the expense of integration efforts.
We should be careful, we should be patient, not speed up too much, because still now the 27 member states, they are not really very well integrated among themselves.
On the night of January 13 to the 14th, 1993, the Jan Eveliusz ferry set sail from the port of Šibenik. However, no one could have predicted that the voyage would end in the largest peacetime maritime disaster in Polish history. The disaster, shrouded in mystery, became the subject of the new Netflix series Eveliusz.
Spora część tego serialu jest dedykowana tej katastrofie i ją pokazuje. Ale też jeszcze większa część tak naprawdę dotyczy tego, co się działo potem. Opowiada o ludziach, którzy zostali na lądzie, którzy stracili bliskich, także o ludziach, którzy przeżyli katastrofę. Jest to nie tylko film katastroficzny, ale jest to też dramat, po prostu dramat społeczny, dramat sądowy.
Although it's a fictional series, the creators put a lot of work into portraying the reality of the events.
Kasper Bajon, który jest autorem scenariusza, przywertował dziesiątki akt, rozmawiał z bardzo wieloma osobami, których ta katastrofa dotyczyła, więc tu jest bardzo dużo prawdy.
The production stands out. It uses a wide range of practical, special and computer effects.
Skala ilości ujęć w pełni cyfrowych, zwłaszcza ujęcia Heweliusza promu płynącego w nocy w pełnym sztormie, to były bardzo trudne ujęcia i takiego filmu posiadających ponad 60 ujęć w pełni cyfrowych nie wiedziałem. Ponadto w całym serialu było około 1000 ujęć łącznie, które wymagały różnego rodzaju cięższych bądź lżejszych udziału efektów specjalnych. Więc pod tym względem na pewno jest to serial wyjątkowy.
The project's skill reflects the dynamism of the Polish film, television and post-production industry.
Ja myślę, że idziemy w bardzo dobrym kierunku jako Polska, ponieważ przynajmniej my z produkcji na produkcję robimy filmy bądź seriale, które mają coraz większy udział efektów specjalnych, co z punktu widzenia stopnia skomplikowania dla nas jest dość istotne, ale też ogólnie jakościowo te produkcje są coraz lepsze, dobrze zrealizowane i coraz większym rozmachem.
Projects like Heweliusz demonstrates the vast talent pool of Polish cinema today.
95% tego serialu powstało w Polsce, polskimi rękami i wydaje mi się, że branża jest konkurencyjna absolutnie w skali europejskiej czy światowej. My tu żadnych kompleksów nie mamy.
The series is now available on Netflix.